This week we are reviewing the new Michael Jackson movie. Is it a thriller of a movie, just bad, or is it just a really, really, really weird mix of both? Stick around to find out. Hello and welcome to Middle Aged Geeks. I'm one of your hosts, Daz. That's Phil. And this week we are reviewing Michael, the new Michael Jackson biopic, directed by Anton Fuqua, starring Jafar Jackson, Coleman Domingo, Nia Long, Giuliano Valdi as young Michael, and a few other cameos from some other stars. So firstly, we'll just set the scene and then get your initial thoughts, because there's a lot to talk about this movie in terms of on-screen and behind the camera. So this is listed on the description on IMDb is Michael, the story of the famous musician Michael Jackson, known as the King of Pop. And that's it. It's like, and if you go in to the movie expecting the entire story of the famous musician Michael Jackson, you might be in for a little bit of a shock. So the movie essentially takes us from the start of the kind of Jackson 5 up to pretty much 1988. And I don't think that's a spoiler to let you know that. And there might be a part 2 to this. There should be. And if there's not, this is really weird. So firstly then, Phil, because we saw this together yesterday.
Yeah.
And what were your thoughts then after digesting it over the night?
Yeah, well, I'll definitely have to digest it because, like yourself, such a fan of his music that, I was bopping along and trying to keep myself still to some of the tunes. It's so enjoyable in that way that you kind of have to go, okay, I'll just try and think objectively about it. It's a really good time. The movie really is it looks great. There's some great performances, like the musical numbers, which obviously when they use them, they use like full songs. It's not just a clip. It's the full on your man's fucking dance choreography, everything, the costumes. But there's a lot to like about it. But then at times it feels a little bit like a TV movie. Like some of the dialogue is horrific, and there's no excuse. You can't say, "Oh, that's secondhand information." Some of this stuff is Michael, on his own talking to his animals or whatever the fuck. Like, and so it's you're making up that stuff, and it's still quite difficult to watch some of it. So yeah, I can see why it's got such a mixed bag. If you look on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got 30 something from critics, and then it's up at like 96 or something from audiences. Like audiences are seem to love it, and it's a good time. But as you said, Daz, it stops at 1988, and I wasn't aware of that. That's why I said to you when it pops up, what the is that it? Is it over? Like, I didn't realize that we weren't getting anything more than that. And I think the most that I saw on the poster when I walked out, it said something like has Michael and it has the origin of an icon or something. It just has down the bottom. I don't know if that's what they're just going to point to that and say, well, we did just say it was the origin.
Yeah.
But, there's nothing out there to say, no, this is only up as far as 1988. And a lot of this, most of it, I would say, take place between a 3-year period between 81 and 84. The majority kind of it takes place. But no, look, I mean, I do have beefs definitely, and there'll be talk about it as we go on. But I did like a lot of it. Like, I thought some of the performances were really, really good. Coleman Domingo, as always, is just fantastic. I'm interested to hear what you thought, though, because we kind of just didn't talk too much when we left. Just about our thoughts. We're more just dancing and really.
yeah. I think the whole cinema was dancing. Like, IMAX was absolutely jam-packed. This movie is going to make a shit ton of money. It was a strange one because I really enjoyed a lot of it because, like, his soundtrack and his music and that era of his life when you're growing up, and that aspect of it when he is, like, some of the parts of the movie that I had issue with, also in the same breath kind of made sense of how he was looked at that time, this Messiah-esque, second coming of fucking musical Jesus or something. It's just like, it's so like he's just this angelic, like, absolute godlike superstar, the King of Pop. But it is uncomfortable when you're watching those moments when you're just with kids in a toy store and silent things, and you're just like, yeah, it's just like that comes across as some points were really daytime TV. Even the way they were shot was just very kind of glossy and just like some Hallmark-esque kind of shit. But then there's so much to like about it. Like, I obviously love the music, I love Coleman Domingo, and that part, there's still a lot squeezed into this, even when it's only up to 1988. It really centers around him and his father, and trying to break away from the Jackson Five, and that kind of emotional tussle with his father, who's just an angry uh, bastard, like abusive prick, um, and that all kind of worked. But then, his brothers in Jackson Five, they get like one line each, and you kind of go, just there's just so much to tell, even in that period in the 80s, let's say, of his life, that it still felt like it was just skipping through things a lot. And then there's like really extended pieces of music in the movie, like it's 2 hours and 10 minutes or something, but the last 20 minutes of the movie is just music, and you're like okay. And that's obviously, we'll get into it, but they had to like restructure the ending due to legal issues regarding not being able to dramatize some of the court case stuff. So they spent 15 million to restructure the last act, I think, and that's why I think there's just loads. Someone said just put loads of music on screen, which is, it just kind of ends kind of. It's not so much anticlimactic, because the music's brilliant and the production is brilliant, but then when it just stops and it's like it comes up in a title card, his story continues, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's just quite abrupt. And when you're looking back at it, you're going, yeah, like I enjoyed a lot of it, but some of it is just weird. It kind of feels weird. I do think some of the reviews I was reading through was like 38% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that's pretty low, and I wouldn't agree with that. And I've seen a lot of reviews are reviewing the movie they didn't get. They're just like, how can you tell a story without diving into this, and this? And it's like, well, if there is going to be a part two, and we talked about it, it's going to be a grim fucking part two. It's going to be pretty different. I don't know how it would marry with this. What are your thoughts on that? Does it change it for you? If they had said, this is Michael part one, I think it would be easier to digest, because it's not going into those darker aspects of his latter years, because it's telling this part. And this part is when he was just a god. And then part two, you could even do a trilogy, but part two, it would have to get weird. And I don't know how that would translate, or how they would actually film that.
Yeah, I think again. I mean, yeah, okay. Granted, obviously he had an amazing career, even in as we go into the 90s and stuff as well, obviously. But yeah, that stuff that comes up with accusations and then of course his illness and everything, which they kind of touch on with regards to the doctor, after he has that accident, and what's the name of the drug they put him on, whatever that super fucking painkiller is.
Oh yeah.
They like, is it not Demerol? Is it Demerol? Could be them. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe.
know. Whatever it is.
Sure,
anyway, they kind of touch on that a little bit, and they do touch on some of the kind of darker stuff, the plastic surgery and bits and pieces. But it's kind of just glossed over pretty quickly. Like, to make a second movie, I don't know how. Yeah, like you said, how they captured so much fun and positivity in this. Of what he could possibly achieve. All these people believing in him. I just, if there is a part two, it is going to be grim as fuck. But all we can do is review what's in front of us, and so I don't see, you can't give it a negative review because you didn't get, oh, well, I want to know what happened later on. But yeah, well, what happened in real life. If you get a movie, you get a movie. But this, I didn't know at the time. But that's what this is. It's just his life as far as as I said, the origin of an icon. It's what catapulted him into worldwide fame, and he was at the height of his powers at late 80s, early 90s. So, I like. I think the music numbers were a bit, as much as I love them, like seeing the full song, like of like bad, and you're getting it from start to finish. It's great, and it's amazing, and the crowd is great. But it's just like you're taking up, and that happens like maybe 3 times throughout it. We get an entire song from start to finish, and enjoyable as it is, and it's like, hey, look what we can do. We can make it look like, a massive crowd in Dodger Stadium and all this kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I get that, but like these, like biopic, whatever way you want to say it, I find most of them don't need to resort to doing this, to playing the full song, and it's just, I don't know if it's just to show off that he's got the moves, they've got the music, they can make it look like it was at the time. I don't know if it's just that kind of showpiece to it, but like even for me, a fan, I was like, it didn't fit right to have an entire song there,
Yeah, when nail on the head there. When they got it right, I thought, was when you're seeing him meeting with the gang guys for Beat It and going through kind of getting the moves, and it's just like seeing that being put together was pretty fucking cool. It's like you're getting and Thriller was excellent because they actually went out for that Thriller and they shot on the exact same street and did the whole production and everything, and it was fantastic. But they just show you like just about 20 seconds of the actual song, and then it's just him talking in between takes about different camera shots, and that's when they do that, it's brilliant. And it just it's mainly towards like when you get the last 20 minutes of just music, it's like it really feels, even though it's great, but it's still like, to end on that note just feels like it's still great music, but it's still kind of anticlimactic because it just comes across really uneven, and it's like, is this really how you wanted to end it? And obviously it wasn't. Like, someone said there was reports, because this was apparently let's say a 4-hour movie, and the initial rough cut, and it was going to be part 1 and part 2, and part 1 was going to start apparently with him looking out the window of Neverland Ranch with the FBI kind of coming in, and then it tells all this stuff.
Wow.
And then the end leads into part 2, but because they couldn't for some reason showcase or dramatize that kind of stuff, they rejigged it, and you can see that it does seem kind of uneven, and that they're kind of just plugging gaps by extending the music sequences. Like you said, it makes perfect sense to, like, you just touch on all this music, it's easy peasy. You just give us 30 seconds of a song, you fucking go, yeah, and then you're on to the next scene or whatever, and it's just, the movie is going to feature music heavily, and that's fine, but I don't need 15 uninterrupted minutes of music, especially when one of them is just the Jackson 5 reunion kind of tour, the whole song of that, and you're going, that's great, but I don't really give a shit about that part. Tell me a bit more of the story. Like,
Yeah, and like if you cut out some of that, there's no reason for the movie to be whatever it is. Is it 2 hours and 7 minutes or something?
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for it to be over 2 hours when you're putting in full bits of music like that. Now, it's great if you're a fan of Michael Jackson and it's you don't give a fuck about the intricate story, whatever. Like, I'm sure you won't care, but I would have liked more stuff about that really complicated relationship, that whole family dynamic, and they I know it's Michael's story, but I would like to see some more from the brothers. Like, we see what kind of how difficult the father he was and how he treated them. Like, but by all regards, he didn't treat the other lads that great either. Yet in this, it makes it out as if he's doing
just Michael.
his best. Yeah, and he's like, it's just Michael, and he's protecting the guys and protecting the family. What about your brothers? What about your brothers this and your brothers that? It's like, yeah, but by all accounts, he was a dickhead to them as well.
Yeah.
So, but I just would have liked to say more about that complicated relationship, because that was so interesting, at the start when they're where was it? Is it not Kansas? Where were they from again? Indiana?
Gary, Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana. Yeah. And
it does start, and it kind of gets going really quickly, and it starts just, they're already kind of practicing as the Jackson 5, and it's just kind of skipping through the years quite quickly.
Were you able to find out, was the young Michael, is that his real voice singing when he's in?
No, I didn't find that out, but I don't think it is, because it sounds really, really like early Michael Jackson. And,
yeah, like, it sounds incredible when he's in the thing with Quincy Jones, and he's like, fucking hell,
but he has incredible voice. Young Michael and Jafar Jackson. Like, I guess we'll probably just get into performances, like, but young Michael and old Michael, in terms of like they look the part, and for the most part they do. Like, Jafar Jackson I think he's really good. It's his first performance ever, and I know it's like he's the nephew of Michael Jackson and all that, but he's still like parts of this movie you're kind of just, you just have to kind of snap into it and kind of go, gee, like, that's not Michael Jackson. Like, he fucking has them with the physical performances and renditions of his iconic showpiece musical numbers, and Billie Jean and all this stuff in the moonwalk is just fucking incredible. And and to act and to put on that voice and stuff, it works for the most part. And then there are some scenes, unfortunately, I just think the script kind of lets him down, and just the way it's shot, it just really comes across as like Hallmark movie of the week. which
Yeah,
was
there has that
unfortunate.
fuzziness kind of around it. Like you see him and he's talking to someone off camera, and then we'll be able to do this, and we'll be able to do this. Then you put out like, oh, he's talking to a rat, like, or he's talking to the goddamn monkey or whatever. Like, they don't show you. They zoom out. And you see, oh, he's not actually talking to a person.
Yeah, he's
He's
talking to
just
another
talking to
animal.
he's talking to another animal. Then he's going to kiss the llama on the head, and off he goes.
Mm,
Um, I don't know some of that stuff. Some of that Neverland stuff was weird. Like he has the book out and
just
he's
very uncomfortable.
looking at. Yeah, it was uncomfortable, but also like a lot of this, so much of stuff. He's on his own. So this is directorial like story choices. It's
Mm,
not something that you're saying. Oh yeah, I was in the room and I saw that's the way he was going
mhm.
on. You're making decisions. You're making these decisions about him yourself. Like so, it was your choice to make that really uncomfortable. I wasn't a fan of those scenes at all. Can I ask you
Uh,
guys on performances? Like, obviously, we'll talk more about the main cast, but I didn't know
mm,
anything much about his security guy, Bill Bray. I
yeah.
didn't know a massive amount about him, but I loved that. That I was going to say that character, but obviously it's a real person.
Mm,
I thought he was great. I really, really liked him. It just felt like he was the one who was on Michael's side.
mm.
Just so loyal to him and stuff. But I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought he
Yeah.
was excellent. Yeah, I didn't know too much about him at all, but obviously he was pretty prominent in his life. He just comes across as kind of the one kind of true and honest friend he seemed to have that just kind of
Yeah.
kind of protected him as much as possible. I don't know who that actor was either, but I thought he was really good, really stood out. But yeah, the a lot of people as well were saying and criticizing the movie because of the lack of Janet Jackson, but it was her wishes. She didn't want to be in the movie at all, so she's not, and it's a glaring omission at times. And especially if there's a second movie, you'd imagine she would have featured a bit more prominently. But it kind of seems to center, like, obviously about with Jafar Jackson, Coleman Domingo, and Coleman Domingo, as we said, he's just incredible. He's just such a powerhouse, and he's just like demonic, controlling, abusive, intimidating figure. He does that incredibly well. The mother, is it Nia Long? Thought she was really good, but there's so many moments. Like she has a scene with Michael later on in the hospital. I thought that was really, really touching, lovely scene between being the mother, the other side of the abusive father and stuff. But that relationship is portrayed in a couple of scenes during the film of just them sitting down and giggling, watching movies, and just going, could you use that time a bit better to kind of flesh out their
Yeah.
relationship? It just felt, the movie felt just so uneven in terms of that. Just the time I didn't think was being as well spent as it should have been. But yeah, and there's a couple of surprising kind of supporting cast members that I didn't know were going to be in it. We'll leave that for spoilers. I want to touch on the cinematography because, from my point, like the performance sequences are fantastic, and it's like you're getting almost like for like of the broadcast, let's say, camera for Billie Jean, but then it'll cut into a fucking really close up to his feet and face and movement, and I thought that worked incredibly well. Really dynamic camera work, and just the close ups, it was just really effective. But the early '60s stuff with the Jackson 5, I know it kind of looked pretty, but it looked like kind of a glossy like Christmas ad or something. I don't know if you found that. I was just kind of looking at it, just going, this just seemed very overly kind of I don't know, kind of retro fluffy with like excessive kind of vintage lenses and kind of just that
Do you mean when they were young, like when they go
when
on
you're
for
young.
Gladys? Yeah, Gladys Knight
Yeah,
introduces them and they
but
go on. Do you mean
yeah,
then?
not so much, not the TV performances, but more so when they were in their house and around dinner and stuff. I
Okay.
just visually, that it just seemed like this is just, it's like old school retro vintage look dialed up to 11. It just seemed like a Christmas fucking movie kind of look, or Christmas commercial look to me. But more often than not, I was in awe at some of the cinematography. Just how they were recreating some of that stuff was just absolutely brilliant. Did
Yeah,
you get my
yeah.
the Christmas vibe? No.
No, not so much. Maybe, although it was snowy in Gary, Indiana when we
Yeah,
were
well,
there a
that's
bit,
true.
so
Maybe
that
that's
sort of
it.
added to it. But I like I loved the references and stuff. Obviously, we get to see Quincy Jones and Gladys Knight and a few
Mm,
others. I love those, and just some of those numbers are just fantastic. The sequences, the choreography between them,
mm,
the brothers, is just, and this is this little kid, and the brothers,
mm.
and it's so tight. Like this kid is whatever 8, 10 years old.
His moves, man.
Yeah, and
Wow.
his
Like,
moves, he's incredible. Like, and it's just to have it locked in so tight. It's so enjoyable, but so what it was. I would just like to see a nod to the Jacksons cartoon. That would have been nice.
yeah, I'm surprised he didn't touch on that.
But I for the most part thought, like you thought, it was great. I mean, the recreation as well of the sets, like you mentioned about them
Mm,
reshooting where Thriller was shot, like that is
mm,
just fantastic. The makeup and everything is just absolutely spot on.
mm.
The one for the main big stage one in 1988 when he's in full gear, like it's just incredible. It really, really is. I like hats off to them on that point, from that point. But yeah, I think it's more the times when he's in his house, in his room, or with Bubbles the monkey and that kind of stuff. That for me
Yeah,
is when it had that hue kind of
that's what I
around
mean.
it. That
Yeah,
was just, yeah. That those times were a little bit. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. That is what you would think
just kind of
daytime
fairy
movie.
tale or something. It's just like,
Yeah,
what's that all about? So yeah, like in terms of the script and kind of structure of it, like the film obviously underwent extensive reshoots to restructure the narrative and adjust kind of the pacing and stuff, and that's why it felt uneven and incomplete to me. We talked especially towards the ending, but how did you feel in terms of the pacing of it? Because like sometimes it's getting it right with the musical kind of bits and pieces, but then I just felt that sometimes it started to get like incredibly uneven, like a lot of musical pieces, but even just in the scenes, they're just kind of skipping past things and things were just happening. You just felt there should be more drama in this, where he's just like, I want to be on MTV. Well, no, they don't put black people on MTV, and someone makes a phone call. Now you're on MTV, and it's just like, okay, this is really skipping through stuff. Just like, where's the drama here? Like, where's the yeah.
yeah. I think so. That's where my issue with the pacing was, that maybe they spent too much time in that period. Like we're kind of, because we're jumping from we're in 66, then
Mm,
bang, we're in 68, we're
mm,
flying along through it. But then like we're at 81 and we're going along. There's a good long shitloads happening, and then all of a sudden it's like 1982 was like, hang on a sec. And then we only get up as far as 1984, and then there's a bit of a skip. Like, well, the
mm,
majority of the movie is taking place, but there's a massive chunk before that, that really could have done with more time. And we've just spent
mm.
most majority of the movie within this like 3 year period for the most part.
Yeah,
Which is, yeah, I don't, that kind of bothered me a little bit. But at the same time, when it's filled with stuff that like that the stuff with the Bloods and the Crips, which is basically, as you mentioned, the Beat It,
yeah,
like that whole thing with them, the different dance moves and stuff, and him,
yeah.
like that was just fantastic, and I just
Mm.
absolutely loved it. I would love to know who they spoke to, who was actually there on the, to give notes on the day of
Yeah,
what that was like,
because like because from the outside looking in, if you didn't know too much about it, it just seems like Michael Jackson has just solved gang
Yeah,
warfare.
yeah,
It's just like,
100%.
I
Like
brought them all together through music. We're gonna. There's a couple of times where it
it's
has these
Pepsi ad. It really is
monologues.
like that's the
Yeah,
Pepsi ad. Really, you would think like it's just like fucking
let's
going
just love each
going up
other.
and
Music
yeah,
brings us together. Just fuck
yeah.
off, Michael. Will you?
It's like that you're one Kardashian, walking up with the can of Pepsi, the fucking ad
Yeah.
like that, a bit like that. But apparently, these meetings, this whole thing apparently did happen.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It is difficult to think of these absolute, hardcore gangbangers and being influenced by this guy. He was talking like this and until
But maybe that's
until,
how like, he was the
yeah,
king. He was
yeah.
fucking
But
this
he's the
global
king. Yeah.
icon. Yeah.
But I
But
really like those.
yeah,
Those scenes were great. I think the ones where we were showing iconic stuff and songs like that, because
how
they
things were
showed
being put together. Like yeah.
yes, but they did Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, and you have him dancing, and obviously he's got the whatever screen,
Yeah.
it's a blue screen, black screen, whatever it was called back then.
Yeah.
And when you see it, then it cuts onto camera and they show him and he's doing the moves, and it's
Mm.
exactly the same as the video,
Yeah.
like the original video when they split him into three and he's looking across at
Mm.
himself doing different moves. Like it's just that kind of stuff is just great. Like I love
Yeah.
that from there's a couple
I
of
think
things like that for like
that's
Rocket Man
yeah.
when Taron Egerton did
Yeah.
Elton
Yeah.
John's thing, and yeah, that kind of stuff. I love that. I think that when they pull that off, it looks great.
Because there is
It's yeah,
there's some nice bits where, you know, when you have young Michael Jackson and he's trying to record and they're telling him to just stay still and stop moving. You know, you got to stay in front of the mic in a record studio, and
yeah,
he still can't stop moving around and with his moves, and that's those bits are kind of funny. But there's also when they have a little sequence where Michael's just kind of he's in his studio in the Neverland Ranch or in somewhere anyway, and he's coming up with the beat for Beat It, just kind of bit by
oh
bit, just
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
going
yeah,
like just doing pops in his
yeah,
mouth and just putting it in, and then when you finally see it come together, just I just wish there was more of that actual kind of how did all this stuff really come together, because some of it
yeah.
is too it's just all too easy, and maybe that's how it was. He's such a powerful influence that everything came together for him, but they're just that was probably one of my main negatives. There wasn't enough conflict. It was just really him and his father, which I guess is the central theme to the story, but everything around that just seemed to happen quite easily for him. um so yeah, do you have any other, do you want to get into some of the beefs you had with it?
I
um
mean, I think I've kind of peppered them throughout it, you know, with regards
mm,
to pacing and all the rest of it. I obviously beef for me. I didn't realize it was ending when it did. You did know that
yeah,
it wasn't a thing, so I was like, his story continues, but where the fuck is the rest of the
yeah,
movie? So, but I mean, that's if you look at it just as his origin, basically origin kind
mm,
of his origin story, which is the way they meant it. I just think maybe it probably could have been marketed a little more that way,
mm,
you know, but yeah, like I really enjoyed it. I can't jump on board with the low critic other
mm,
critics, if you want to say critic reviews of the low. I don't jump on board with them. I think that they're, like you said, as if they're aiming it towards a movie they
mm.
didn't get, a movie they thought it should have been or wanted to see.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think that's fair.
no, I don't think so. I think there's enough here to make it a really enjoyable earlier of parts of his life biopic.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think I have any more beefs than the ones that we've mentioned throughout.
Yeah, yeah. And my main kind of takeaway from it is, if they had said Michael Part One, and I know actually kind of for not so much legal reasons, but they don't want to say Part One if a Part Two is not coming, and the whole thing about the legal scenario with it, where they weren't allowed to dramatize. I think it was just one case, one of the main cases, so they had to kind of restructure things. But if they say his story continues, and if there's going to be a Part Two, it's how do they get around that legal stuff?
Yeah,
It would be interesting, and I think if they had a roadmap for that and they were able to position this as Michael Part One, I think a lot of the reviews would be a bit more forgiving, knowing hopefully that the darker side is going to come and to tell the full story. Because if you take it at face value and this is the story of Michael, and they're just like, well, they just stopped it there and they're just showing all the good parts. What about the bad stuff? And you're like, that's kind of a personal viewpoint on it
yeah,
for anyone going in, how they're going to take it. And I do think like it helped that I knew this was only up to 1988 and I'd read all about like the shit behind the scenes, and yeah, and I knew that it says his story continues. So I kind of took it at face value for that like I don't feel guilty enjoying this. I don't feel I need to kind of go, no, I'm not going to see it, because it doesn't, it glosses over somebody who was kind of, you know, a tricky character to portray honestly, I guess. So hopefully, knowing in my mind, hopefully there's a part two that helps me digest this and review this as this movie, and then tackle the next one when it comes. But yeah, I'd echo exactly what you said. It was hard not to just really enjoy the experience. Like, probably really enjoyed it more than the star rating I'd give it, and that's because I'm just a massive fan, and it ticked a lot of boxes. But it fell short in a number of other aspects. But I think that's due to the troubled production, and also they just didn't manage the runtime as efficiently as I thought. So I guess then, before we get into spoilers, what star rating would you give this?
so I was thinking about this before we got into it, and I don't know. It's not quite hitting 4 stars for me, but I'm going to say 3.5. Like, it's 3.5 because it was really, really enjoyable. I enjoyed the performances, enjoyed the music, the whole lot. Maybe that's because I'm a Michael Jackson fan, but I just think it's not quite there with regards to making it a great movie. Like and I think it is because of the things you mentioned as the production hassles that it had. I think when it comes down to stuff like the pacing, spending too much time on some things and not on another, Those things are a little bit jarring and off-putting when you're watching it. But
Yeah.
no, I think 3.5 and a really good 3.5. Like I'll watch this again because I'll be happily have it in on the background even. Just listening and singing along while I'm doing something else. It's really is it's an enjoyable biopic, and we're getting spoiled with good biopics over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah, no, I was kind of humming and hawing between 3 and 3.5. But judging on some of the movies I've given 3 to, I'd have to give this 3.5. Like I'm a massive fan, and I really enjoyed most of it. And as an experience in cinema, it was fucking brilliant. And the shortcomings are kind of uneven pacing, the kind of rushed and weird ending, and a couple of the kind of hallmark moments. But if a part 2 is coming, and you see part 2, and then you go back and watch this, it could be some of those scenes could hit a little harder in terms of foreshadowing some darker content.
Yeah.
Although I don't see how this movie would play with the other movie, because if you see like the executive producers on this movie, it's all just like Jacksons. Just like, yeah. Why exactly didn't they go into the dark stuff? Is it because of the legal stuff, or is it the Jackson estate went, we don't want to tarnish our revenue stream? So yeah. Anyway, let's get into some spoilers. There's not many, but some of the cameos. Yeah, Miles Teller is in it for 2 scenes, maybe 3 scenes, which is kind of strange for an actor of his prominence, I guess. And
yeah, his
did you catch
the guy he was playing, whose name fucking escapes me now? His manager,
lawyer, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he was kind of involved with the whole Jackson family project and family, like on and off. Like he was fired and then rehired and fired and rehired. Like he was on and off with them. And when he was coming, I think he was due to come back with them for that This Is It tour, which I was ready to put my fucking everything I had, sell everything I had to get my hands on a ticket for that. During that, he was due to come back on for that. But of course, unfortunately, we all know what happened, and never got that tour. But yeah, no, I actually quite enjoyed him in the small little role that he was in. But you just never know with these people, like how much of a is he giving himself a pat on the back, or
No, he was. And did you catch Mike Myers? Was the
I'm going to pretend right now that we didn't just have a bit off camera where I went, that's who it fucking was. Yeah, I didn't cop that at all. Like I was looking at him going, God, where do I know this person from? Like it's someone
it's
in
the
makeup.
The mouth. Yeah, I'm just like, what the fuck?
Didn't get it. Did you get it at the time? Yeah, you got it while we were watching it.
At the end of the scene, because it's only one scene when he's just on the phone and he's the guy who gets him on MTV, and I would have loved, and you'd imagine there's got to be more to that if he's in it for one scene. But looking at his mouth and just going, where do I know that mouth? And then the whole fat bastard kind of makeup thing from Austin Powers is like, fucking Mike Myers.
I didn't get that
it took
at all.
The whole scene. It's just so annoying when you see someone like that in makeup. Just who the fuck are you? But he was pretty cool. Yeah. It was interesting. And yeah, there's no really other spoilers. I mean, it was nice that they touched on the, burning his fucking scalp and all that stuff, which that was pretty gruesome. But spoiler-wise, there's nothing really to spoil. The only thing the potential spoiler is the thing that we kind of gave away, that where the movie stops and what it actually tells, which I think is something you should know anyway going into it.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's a wrap then for Michael. 3.5 stars for both of us. Go see it in the cinema if you're a fan of Michael Jackson, or if you just want to, just relive some of his the better moments of his career. So yeah, thanks everyone for liking, subscribing, sharing, and everything in between. And we will catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Shaboom, motherfucker!